Hello, everyone. This is Lions Den with another news and commentary. What you're about to see and hear, this story is really sad, right? So you have a black man again who called the police. Now has been unalived by police. I'm going to explain to this. And shots out to the Atlanta Black Star for explaining everything that went down. So according to them, it says did not want to do that. Florida definitely breaks down crying after shooting and unaliving black men who had called them for help in removing problem tenant, video shows. So there's a body cam video came out showing that, he called the police, talking about the brother named Elroy Clark. He called the police and basically telling them that this tenant needed to be removed. Unfortunately, they have an arrest warrant for Elroy Clark. So I'm going to read parts of it. It says, once again, a black citizen called the police for help only for the police to show up and unalive him. This time it was Elroy Clark, a 42-year-old black man who had called the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office in Florida for helping remove a tenant who was acting disorderly. So what you're about to see in this article that's going to trip you out. And again, he was unarmed, but it's showing you that still nothing's going to change in this criminal justice system when it comes to the black community. And this is much more bigger than you think, because I saw a lot of videos, of body cam videos of what happened, and even news articles to make sure everything's factual and agreeable. But it's still the same old thing that, they can kill they can unalive people whatever they wanted to. So this is the brother, Elroy Clark, and he owns a lot of properties in Charlotte County, which is like Fort Myers, Florida. For those of you that don't know, you know, if you don't know the state of Florida, if you don't know the city of Florida, that's Fort Myers, like suburban part of Fort Myers, which is Charlotte County. So of course this is the brother right here. In the right corner of your screen, you see this is very disturbing. Of these are the three officers that unalive him. So this is showing you that this is not going to change in this country. And again, I told y'all we don't want no police reform. All we need is in qualified immunity to hold these officers accountable. Now, the officers that did this to him has been placed on administrative leave, like always in any other situations like this. So two of the officers has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. So we're going to continue the article from Atlanta Black Star because I want you guys to read what I'm about to read, because all of the stuff, how did, they detain an arrest warrant for Elroy Clark in the beginning. This would shock the hell out of you like they did me. Because this situation should have been avoided. It should have been avoided. This brother, Elroy Clark, he shouldn't have been unalive like this. So we're going to continue reading this in a second and showing you that it's kind of shocking that we still live in a country that's still killing unarmed black men. So it continues, says, but the deputy showed up and attempted to arrest Clark over a misdemeanor trespassing warrant stemming from an incident over the summer where he said he was attacked by a deputy after walking into a sheriff's office building to discuss a previous case pertaining to him. Online court records state that Clark was transported to a local hospital that day where he was arrested for trespassing. He then failed to show up in court, which led to the warrant being issued. So, excuse me. So you see him that it's been a previous incident over the summer where, Clark has been attacked by one of their deputies. And And now they said that he failed to show up in court. That's why the arrest warrant has been issued. Now, a lot of people are going to say is if he would have showed up in court, as this he should be, then the arrest warrant wouldn't have happened. But, again, like there's been failed, against miscommunication issues between the law enforcement and of course Mr. Clark. But it's here and there. It's showing you that, the criminal justice system don't know what's going on or what's really happening. And the guy, he owned a lot of properties. He's sort of like a multimillionaire, right? He owns these properties. And one of the guys he confronted, allowed him to stay in one of his properties. And so, they're claiming that they have to use one, I guess they say because he has an arrest warrant over the summer incident. That's why they have to get what they get. But again, I'm gonna tell you like this: this is much more bigger than you think. So according to Atlanta Black Star, the continue says, but on October 23rd, Clark called deputies for help in removing a tenant from his home, which is valued at $1.6 million and contains 11 rooms, according to the Charlotte County Property Appraiser website. Clark was the owner of several businesses, including a real estate company called Clark International Real Estate Group. Now, body cam video released Friday showed Clark speaking to the arrival deputies, telling them that the tenant had been staying at his home for several months, but apparently attempted to enter a portion of the home. He was not allowed access without Clark's permission. I thought I could help him, but I can't, he told the deputies. He's unstable and disturbing the peace. He came into my home, and I told him he can't come in without my permission, so he violated my space, Clark continued. Then came and slammed my door. That's destruction of property. I told you, this guy owns properties in Charlotte County, which is Fort Myers. And he the one called the police on the tenant that he's supposed to kick out. So he called the police on them, and then all of a sudden they said, well, you have an arrest warrant for you. And I told you before, it explains that because he failed to show up in court with a situation with a previous incident over the summer. So now he said, we have an arrest warrant to get to you, Mr. Clark. And that's where the situation begins, right? So I'm telling you, this story is crazy. Sorry for the mishap. I'm going to show you this. So he continued to say is, basically, I'm trying to scroll up. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so he said that he came into my home. I told him he can't come in without permission, so he violated my space, Clark continued. Then he came and slammed my door. That's destruction of property. But then, when deputies spoke to the tenant, Troy Johnson. Now, this is going to be why did the arrest warrant, happen. So Troy Johnson, the tenant that, Mr. Clark tried to kick out, he claims that, there's been a bench warrant on Mr. Clark. So they discovered Clark had a bench warrant, which they confirmed through a dispatcher who dispatched more deputies to Clark's home to arrest him. Clark became agitated after deputies told him to put his hands behind his back, telling the deputies that his name was Ben Day and not Elroy Clark. But Ben Day is the name he uses on his Facebook page. Over the next several minutes, 3 deputies tased, pepper sprayed, and struck him with a baton, but were unable to handcuff him even though they had him on the ground at one point. Clark managed to break free and stand back up with 3 deputies surrounding him. Eventually, a deputy shoots him with less than lethal beanbag gun, which was when Clark charged at another deputy who had his gun out and fired several rounds. The deputy with a beanbag gun also fired from his real gun. And Atlanta Black Star did added the body cam video of the incident. If you want to check it out, you can go to Atlanta Black Star, and the body cam video will be on their page. Now, there's more. There's more to this. And he said, and this is what the deputy said. I didn't want to do that. He would start crying, agitating. He said, I didn't want to do that. The deputy said, crying, I didn't want to do that. Deputies also arrested Johnson, the tenant, on charges of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, manufacturing marijuana, possession of marijuana with intent to sell, and possession of drug paraphernalia, according to NBC2 in Fort Myers. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is the arrest warrant. I want you guys to see why all of this is happening from the get-go. It says on June 4th, 2024, Clark walked into the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office to obtain a report related to a previous incident he had reported, according to a court document filed by Clark in his defense. He said he engaged in a conversation with Deputy Timothy, excuse me, with Deputy Timothy Poole, seeking clarification on certain matters, which led to Detective Poole being irate and hostile. He explained that Poole arrested him without probable cause, only to release him upon the order of a corporal. He then visited a local hospital seeking medical treatment for the injuries received from Poole, but deputies entered the hospital and arrested him on a misdemeanor trespassing charge. Now, the affidavit filed by Poole states that Clark walked into the building demanding paperwork as to why his estranged wife was allowed to remove their children from their home. The affidavit also states that Clark was transported to the hospital because he claimed his hand was injured after being handcuffed. Poole's version of the encounter at the sheriff's office lays out his justification for his arrest. So the Officer Poole during this arrest warrant will explain why, that the arrest happened in the beginning. Why, I told you that earlier that Clark didn't show up in court, and this is why the arrest warrant happened in the first place. So we did explain the arrest warrant, that it deals with the previous incident over the summer, which was June of 2024, right? How it involves his estranged wife allowing to remove the children from their home, which Mr. Poole didn't agree upon, right? So I'm going to read what Officer Poole, in response, is telling why he did what he did. Because this is why the incident happened. And again, this shouldn't have been avoided, right? This incident should have been avoided. And unfortunately, you have miscommunications between law enforcement and Mr. Clark in his camp. And this is where we are. This is where we are. And again, the brother shouldn't even, if the dude was unarmed, right? There's incidents, and I'm going to get finished reading the Atlanta Black Star in a second, but there's incidents that, quote unquote, a white suspect charged at officers, right? And they tased them and everything, and then basically you see the officers running away from the suspect, try to de-escalate the situation. But in this situation, as usual, when it comes to black suspects or black subjects that's been eradicated and targeted with officers, they get gunned down. Okay, so the officer in this case says, Clark wanted my badge number and I provide it several times as he continued to repeat it back incorrectly. I told Clark he needed to leave due to Clark's loud and disruptive behavior and the fact that he was causing a disturbance in the lobby as he appeared to just want to argue and continue talking loudly. I told Clark he needed to leave based on his behavior. Clark's combative demeanor in the public lobby of the District 3 was a threat to anyone who may have entered the building, so I ordered him to leave the building. Clark remained at the window, continued to ask questions. I told him again that he needed to leave or he will be arrested. Clark remained. Now, online court records showed that Clark who was born in Jamaica, did not have a history of violence or felony arrests, and his defiance against deputies before he was shot was mostly verbal, which may be a result of his PTSD suffer. So he suffered from mental health issues. So his PTSD suffered, and he's been hospitalized by a deputy in June. Those who knew him were shocked at the shooting, saying it was an out of character for him. So you see what's going on, that the officer Poole's version of it, that he's been combative, he's been uncooperative, that he's talking loudly, that he demand Clark to leave or facing arrest, and I guess at that time he refused to leave. So this is getting deep, y'all. This is really, really getting deep. And so now he suffered from, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. So he has that, which is also a mental health. So this is the key. And I saw the other part of the topic from Fox 4, that the guy that knew him said this. He said, the guy I knew wasn't aggressive. He was very calm, spoken guy. I think someone is making it out to seem like something it wasn't. Dalton Fiata, a contractor working at Clark's home, told Fox 4. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Atlanta Black Star article. So you heard the previous arrest warrant that, Clark had gotten, and all he did was he called the police on the tenant that refused to leave. And so the tenant told the officers, well, he did have an arrest warrant, have a bench warrant on him. And so then until the officers got the arrest warrant and said, well, you told Clark, the guy who was unalive, you have a warrant for your arrest for what the incident happened this past summer. But then he felt like, well, wait a minute, I called you to get the guy out of my property, and now you're gonna, tell me this now? And so they tried to arrest him. But then later on, you see that the guy who's the tenant, he's been arrested anyway for all the other charges he's been facing, for drug paraphernalia, everything. But the fact of the matter is that the guy, Clark, is now deceased over a misunderstanding when it comes to the arrest warrant. This is showing you how bad law enforcement is. And again, he was unarmed. He didn't say, well, he had a gun, he had a knife, blah, blah. All that happened was he was too combative. He was charging at officers, and they say that they tried everything. I saw the video that they tried everything. They tried to tase him twice. They tried to, use baton on him. They even pepper sprayed him. And they used one of them, one of them beanbag bullets, using that protesters. None of them didn't work, right? So then he basically, on thing, when you see the body cam video, he did try to charge the officer. The officer used his service weapon, opened fire, and he was deceased. Now, after this, the cop was crying, because he said, I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to do it. Excuse me. Tried to tell the officer I didn't want to do that. And they tried, and then basically, and some officer, well, you didn't have a choice. Calm down, breathe, you didn't have a choice. But ladies and gentlemen, they should have, if this arrest warrant shouldn't have happened, this situation shouldn't have happened if, and then a lot of people say, well, Mr. Clark if he should have showed up in court, then the arrest warrant wouldn't happen, and none of this would have happened. He'd still been alive today. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's showing you that the miscommunication there happened. The lawyer dropped the ball. You know, this situation shouldn't happen at all. She should have been alive. And by the guy who called the police to get a tenant out, he the one was deceased, which is crazy. Let me know what you think about it in the comments.